Development Department of NDRC, Inspector Zhang Qing from the Planning and Development Department of the Civil Aviation Administration of China, Director General Jin Jinhua from the Policy and Regulation Department of the State Post Bureau, to share their opinions and take questions on the improvement of air freight transportation. We also have invited Director Chen from the Emergency Department of Beijing Children's Hospital to share information knowledge on the prevention of accidental harm to children. Some updates on the epidemic in the 24 hours of March the 28th. According to reports from provinces, cities, Xinjiang Production and Construction Corp, new confirmed cases 45, including 44 imported cases, and 1 domestic case from Henan Province. New deaths 5. All were Hubei cases. New suspected cases 28, including 27 imported cases and 1 domestic case from Gansu. On the day, newly cured and discharged from hospitals 477. Those off medical observation 1,097. Severe cases were reduced by 179 as of 24 o'clock March the 28th. According to reports from provinces, cities, and Xinjiang Production Construction Corp, remaining confirmed cases numbered 2,691, including 742 severe cases. Cumulatively cured and discharged from hospitals 75,448. Cumulative deaths 3,300. Cumulatively reported confirmed cases 81,439. Remaining suspected cases 174. Cumulatively traced close contacts 701,884. Those who remain under medical observation as close contacts 18,581. There was no new confirmed case, no new suspected cases, no remaining suspected cases in Hubei province. Newly cured and discharged from hospitals 467, all were in Wuhan. New deaths 5, all Wuhan cases. Remaining confirmed cases 2,054, including 2,045 in Wuhan. Severe cases in the province 710, including 706 in Wuhan. Cumulatively cured and discharged from hospitals 62,565, including 45,418 in Wuhan. Cumulative deaths 3,182, including 2,543 in Wuhan. Cumulatively confirmed cases 67,801, including 50,006 in Wuhan. In the 24 hours of March the 28th, newly reported imported confirmed cases 44, including 8 in Guangdong, 7 in Tianjin, 7 in Shanghai, 4 in Beijing, 3 in Liaoning, 3 in Jiangsu, 3 in Zhejiang, 2 in Sichuan, 1 in Shanxi, 1 in Inner Mongolia, and 1 in Jilin, Fujian, Jiangxi, Chongqing, Guizhou, respectively. As of 24 o'clock, March the 28th, cumulatively reported imported confirmed cases 693. From Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, cumulatively reported confirmed cases 902, including 582 in the Hong Kong SAR, 37 in the Macau SAR, and 283 in the Taiwan region. On 28th of March, remaining confirmed cases was reduced to below 3,000. We have basically curbed and stopped local transmission. Imported cases 693 from 42 countries. 83.4% of the imported cases were from 7 major countries. There is still a high risk of the second wave of infection from imported cases. We need to guard against domestic sporadic cases and imported risks. We need to adapt and adopt measures promptly and ensure precise prevention and control measures are in place. Now we'd like to take questions. Please ask questions on today's topic, and please identify yourself before you address your question. First, a question from the first row on the right side, please. With China Media Group, on 24th of March, Premier Li Keqiang pointed out that we must promote airport development based transportation capacity improvement. We have noticed that in Ezhou of Hubei province, an airport focusing on cargo and freight transportation is being built. We know this is also an assignment for the 13th five-year plan. What is the national arrangements and deployments for such airport development? I'd like to ask Inspector Ren Hong from NDRC to take the question. Thank you for your interest in the airport development with a focus on cargo and freight transportation. I'd like to talk about 3 points. First, the general situation. In the past decade, there has been major development of airports development. As of the end of 2019, we had 235 airports. In 2019, passenger throughput was 1.35 billion person times, 39% higher than that of last year. The cargo throughput was only 2.1 percentage points higher than that of the previous year, which has shown that the cargo or freight transport has been increasing at a much slower speed than that of passenger transport. Or in other words, the cargo and freight airway transportation is only initiating. We found concentrated and clustered development. 50% of the cargo transportation happened in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou airports. If we look at the international capacity, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Zhengzhou, these 5 international airports are transporting 90% of the national cargo or freight transportation. Despite of a slow increase, the increase has been concentrating or restricted in these airports. Apart from the comprehensive airports in Beijing and Shanghai, there are also some airports dedicated to cargo transportation. The 235 airports I've mentioned are comprehensive airports. Cargo dedicated airport is still 0 in China. We are only starting the development of dedicated airports for cargo or freight transportation. So this is an important task for us. Second, I'd like to share with you our progress of developing the airports dedicated for cargo or freight transportation. You may feel firsthand that with the rapid development of e-commerce, international freight transportation has been diversified and more professional. This has put forward higher and new requirements on the development of airports.
In particular, since the outbreak of the pandemic in the air freight, cargo freight, we felt that there were weaknesses, and we don't have a air cargo freight based or dominated airport. That's why in the 13th five-year development period, the development of such an airport has been identified as a priority. For airports focusing on the cargo air freight, indeed, they are faced with some difficulties. So thirdly, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the Ezhou Airport. Actually, the Ezhou Airport is the first airport in China to focus on the cargo freight. Just as I have mentioned, this is developed consistent with the national requirement as well as the reference from the international practices. We wish to strengthen the coordination so that the cargo freight by airplanes can also contribute to the transportation development in China. That's why we have identified Ezhou as the venue or location for the cargo freight, and we wish that by 2030, this airport can have transportation capacity of 2.3 million tons every year. And also we try to engage the stakeholders and the social investment or the investment from the society or from the private sector to develop this airport. This is also one of its kind in China, the first of its kind in China. The Ezhou Airport was began to be built in the second part of 2019. Despite the pandemic, it is expected that with the accelerated resumption of building by the end of this year or early next year, we will be able to accomplish this airport, and also we plan to develop more airports focusing on cargo freight in the other parts of the country. Okay, let's continue on the left, on the first row, the first lady reporter, please. Thank you. With Hong Kong Economic Herald, compared with the major powers in the delivery, we can see that China is still lagging behind. So my question is for the State Post Bureau, how to develop the relevant sector in China. We will have Mr. Jin to answer the question. Thank you very much. Thank you for your interest and support for the development of such a network in China. In general, over the past years, the Chinese courier companies are developing fast in the cargo freights. And in the year 2019, the outbound couriers exceeded 2.1 billion, and with a total weight of 750,000 tons. These mails and couriers are delivered by air. The target countries are concentrated in Europe and Asia. Also, the courier companies enjoy 80% of the air freight capacity, and the remaining 20% of the freight capacity was lying with the commercial air transporters. And now the companies enjoy more than 100 cargo air freights, and they have more than 30 air routes to deliver the couriers. Just as the journalist has pointed out, China is still lagging behind in terms of the airborne network of delivery, and it is not consistent with the rapid growing needs. That's why the State Post Bureau, together with other government agencies, are pushing forward the development of this sector and contribute more to the international logistics network. We've conducted the following measures. The first, together with the international air cargo freight authorities, we have made planning for such development. And second, we work with the relevant agencies to push forward the development of airports and hubs. And we wish to build some cargo hubs which can cover both the domestic and the international routes and markets. Thirdly, we encourage the harmonization of the technical standards and the coordination among the stakeholders. We hope that more information technology can be adopted to encourage the growth of the sector. Fourthly, we are ensuring and coordinating the international and the domestic networks. We are trying to increase the efficiency of customs clearance and address the outstanding issues in this regard. Thank you. Let's continue. On the right, on the fifth row, the first gentleman reporter, please. With CCTV. It is learned that during the outbreak, it is quite troublesome to apply for the transportation license, and also the cost of the relevant transportation services is also rising. So what are the measures adopted to reduce the cost burden on the relevant companies? And also, has China coordinated with relevant countries to address these problems? We will have Madam Zhang Qing to answer the question. Thank you. At the moment, the CAAC has already worked out policies to reduce the charges for the companies, and also we have accelerated the review and approval procedure, trying to increase the international cargo transportation efficiency in the light of the specific needs and requirements. We are working actively with the relevant authorities or counterpart agencies in other countries. Okay, let's continue. On the right, on the second row, the third lady reporter, please. Thank you. With Shenzhen Satellite TV, it is stated that compared with the European and US capacity, the cargo freights in China are under-equipped. So what are the measures to improve the capacity? We will have Madam Ren Hong to answer the question. Thank you. Thank you for your interest in the all-cargo transportation. Let me share with you two pieces of information. The first is about the all-cargo freights or transportation. At the moment, we only have 173 such planes, while in the US, the number is 555. So we are lagging behind in terms of the number, and the proportion of such cargo freights in our overall plane is quite limited. So it is fair to say that we're still at an early stage of the cargo freight development. And now there are 10 such companies in China, and they only represent a small proportion of the transportation companies, and also the number of private companies is limited.
The growth of cargo aircrafts have also been slow. During the previous 5-year plan period, there was an increase of only 49, aircrafts, taking up only 40% of the planned growth. Cargo aircraft growth have been impacted by the market. If we look at the supporting cabins, they can transport 2/3 of the transport, and in cargo aircrafts, they take up only 1/3 of the total cargo transported. If we look at the international average data on domestic routes, the supporting cabins only take up 82% of the total transportation capacity. Therefore, all this data has shown the laggard development since the outbreak of the epidemic. In international air travels, there has been a cut on the passenger transportation, and thereafter the transportation of cargo capacity has also decreased. Though some of the cargo transportation airliners are still operating, but the capacity has been influenced by a big margin. So the current situation is far from ideal. Second, we encourage and support the airliners and logistic companies to develop a cargo airway transportation. Cargo aircraft development are interlinked with the entire industry development and cargo mix. Years before, when the market was sluggish, many airliners' enthusiasm in developing cargo aircrafts have been dampened, and they have cut the plan of purchasing cargo aircrafts. Over the past few years, with the development of new business format, some companies are actively buying cargo aircrafts. SF Express in China has 69 cargo aircrafts. This highly efficient cargo transporter has excellently transported N95 medical masks transportation. SF Express has also used the cargo aircrafts to travel directly from Hubei and Wuhan to other places and have transported 95% and above medical masks to Hubei. We have been actively promoting the airliners and logistic companies to develop cargo aircrafts. We also encourage companies to include cargo aircrafts purchase into their development in accordance with the delegation of power and streamlining of services. As guided by the State Council, we will adopt further measures to expand the cargo fleet among the airliners and logistics. We also encourage the integration of business between the airliners and logistic companies and encourage the extension of upstream and downstream businesses by logistic companies. We're also exploring the new business formats of air cargo transportation and encourage professional logistic companies to come to the airports with dedicated cargo transportation teams so as to set up a highly efficient transportation platform. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the third row on the right side. Hong Kong China Review. We've noticed that impacted by the epidemic, there has been a major decrease in passenger throughput and the auxiliary cargo transport. So how can we ensure the international transportation of quarantine, prevention, and control needed supplies? I'd like to ask Inspector Zhang Qing to take the question. CAAC has been following President Xi's suggestion that wherever there is the pandemic, there are our efforts in the fight against the epidemic. Following the deployment of the State Council Joint Agency Task Force, we have responded actively and coordinated to ensure efficient transportation. As of 26th of March, CAAC has transported a total of 4.6 million tons of medical supplies, contributing to a global fight against the pandemic. And in the future, CAAC will follow the guidelines from the Ministry of Finance with specific funding support to the transportation of medical supplies. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the second row on the left side. Thank you. Shenzhen Special Economic Zone News. We've learned that China has weaknesses in international cargo transportation. What has been the progress of its latest development? On the 24th of March, the Standing Committee meeting of the State Council has put forward a requirement of improving cargo transportation capacity. What will be the next step plan by CAAC? I'd like to ask Inspector Zhang Qing to continue the answer. Thank you for your question. I'd like to talk about 4 points. First, market players. Cargo airliners, 10. Cargo aircrafts, 137, 41 for long-distance transportation. Second, transportation scale in 2019. Civil aviation has transported 7.2 million tons of cargo, 60% of the U.S. volume, and the second in the world. Domestic cargo transportation was 68%. International cargo and mail transportation, volume transportation, 32% of the total. Annual increase was 4.6%. Domestic cargo transportation, 37.7%. International increase was 6.7% on annual average. Auxiliary transportation of cargo in passenger transportation is 70% of the total cargo transported. In domestic passenger transportation, 82% of the cargo is transported on the passenger aircrafts. Down the road, we will follow the principles pointed out by the State Council Standing Committee and make up the weaknesses. We'll collaborate with other parties, nurture market players, improve the hubs structures, improve informationization services, create a sound business environment so as to support cargo transportation and therefore support economic and social development. Thank you. Next question, please. Thank you. With Xinmin Evening News. In the response to COVID-19, what has been the role played by China's express delivery? There were some complaints about stranded mails and deliveries in overseas countries. What will be the measures adopted to smoothen future transportation and express delivery? I'd like to ask DG Jin Jinhua to take the question. Thank you for your question. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, State Post Bureau has been following firmly the guidance from the Party Central Committee and the State Council. And the Interagency Joint Task Force, we've organized the express delivery companies to increase the chartered flights, open new transportation air routes to respond to the stranded mails and delivery items, and fostered a network of green and fast-track transportation, medical supplies, daily necessities, and express delivery of mails. Apart from the transportation and delivery of these conventional items, we've also been supporting international efforts. We've opened SF Express has added new international flights to India, United States, and other countries. On 21st of March, SF Express has delivered medical supplies totaled 108 tons, going to 39 countries and regions.
The postal airlines have increased the air routes to Europe and also conducted 24 such air flights. In particular, on March the 19th, with 2 chartered airlines, the 400,000 masks donated by the Jiangsu province were sent to Japan and are okay. Also, one express delivery company used the 757 all-cargo freighters and sent the 10,000 protective guns together with other medical supplies to the Philippines. Cainiao also dedicated 2 flights to ensure the adequate delivery of the supplies. Also, we can see that affected by the outbreak, the international capacity was limited, and some of the inbound supplies and mails were stranded. For the next step, the Chinese postal authorities will work with our international counterparts and international organizations to safeguard the smooth transportation of the postal mails and supplies. We will adopt ways like to increase the routes and the services to ensure the international transportation of the pandemic supplies. Also, we will have the regular trains and transportation by sea or by ship to minimize the negative impact caused by the pandemic. Okay, let's continue. On the right, on the 4th row, the 3rd gentleman, please. With Guangming Daily, the COVID-19 has caused damage or has undermined the international and domestic transportation. Could you please specify on that or give us more details? We will have Madam Zhang Qing to answer the question. Thank you for your question. Indeed, challenged by COVID-19, our international cargo transportation was challenged. On the one hand, we have the belly hold capacity being reduced, and also we find that the all cargo freighters are limited in number. Now, as the domestic situation is improving, we may find the domestic pressure being eased, and also the cargo transportation flights have been increased to 930 per week, which is similar to that prior to the pandemic. The CAAC has adopted the following measures. First, we have increased the capacity. The peak hours of the major airports are used for cargo freighters, and also green channels were set up. And we encourage the domestic and international cargo transporters to utilize the opportunity. Furthermore, we encourage the airliners to set up communication and coordination mechanism with the relevant enterprises. For the potential surge of the transportation needs in some markets, we are closely monitoring the situation and come up with appropriate countermeasures. And also, CAAC has reduced the relevant charges against the transportation companies. And that was initiated last year, and this year we further reduced the fees charged for the transportation companies. Moreover, we have initiated the emergency response plan to prevent the potential risks. Okay, we can only allow 2 more questions. Please, on the right, on the 3rd row, the reporter in black, please. Thank you. With Express Delivery magazine. In the year 2019, the International Express Delivery Network initiated by China can only cover 1/3 of the global, and the international express delivery services is also quite limited in terms of the proportion in the global total. So what are the considerations to encourage the rapid growth in this sector? Now we will have Mr. Jin to answer the question. Thank you for your question. Indeed, in the year 2019, the international service represented only 3% and 10% respectively in terms of the international coverage and the delivered volume. Though our mails can be delivered to the majority of the countries and the regions in the world, the parcel delivery is only available in 60 countries. Now, in recent years, under the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative, the international network is being encouraged to develop. Over the past 5 years, the annual growth rate reached 35%. Indeed, this is a fast growth. However, in terms of the overall status, we can see that China's express delivery is still at an early stage. We have shortcomings like inadequate coverage, inappropriate product types, and the poor services or delivery quality. So we also have limited market share internationally. In order to catch up with our international counterparts and expand the international express delivery network and facilitate the Belt and Road Initiative, the State Post Bureau proposed the Express Delivery Going Abroad initiative. For this initiative, we are going to take the following measures. The first is we will set up the exchange stations, and we are going to accelerate the development of international center for the relevant regulation and monitoring. Second, we encourage the express delivery companies to expand their services to the key neighboring regions and countries, and also to expand the existing transportation routes to Europe and United States. Also, we support the domestic companies to work with the local companies in the destinations. With such collaboration, the customs clearance capacity is expected to be increased and the service quality improved. And fourthly, we support the delivery companies to cooperate with the manufacturers so that they can go hand in hand and go abroad to expand their business. Fifthly, we are strengthening policy communication with our international counterparts. We're trying to create a favorable environment for the Chinese express delivery companies so that they can also contribute to the international development in this regard.
Thank you. Last question. Journalist from the fourth row on the left side. From China Civil Aviation News. There has been major impact on civil aviation by the epidemic. Madam Ren Hong has talked about the weaknesses underscored by the impact. Apart from the cargo-dedicated airports development, what are other pipeline plans? I'd like to ask Madam Ren Hong to take the question. Thank you for your interest in the development of civil aviation and infrastructure such as airport. Yes, indeed, civil aviation has been cared and concerned by the general public, and this epidemic has underscored major weaknesses in both passenger and cargo transportation. China is now planning for the 14th five-year plan, and we are reviewing and reflecting the weaknesses that have become pronounced in response to the COVID-19. We will, apart from improving aviation infrastructure, but also improve the services to meet the needs of the general public for convenient and efficient transportation or travel. And in case of emergencies, the comprehensive guarantee provided by civil aviation should also be considered. Many of the problems are under consideration for the 14th five-year plan period. We have 4 points. First, continue to accelerate infrastructure development, airport in particular. We will build world-class international hubs and regional airport hubs with comprehensive transportation capacity. Meanwhile, we'll also accelerate the development of branch airports. It is our expectation that we can have a network with a comprehensive coverage and a modern airport network. Besides, we are also determined to make up for the weaknesses that have been identified during the COVID-19 response. Cargo transportation hubs should be of systematic development. Cargo airport, or every airport, has been designed with passenger and cargo transportation. However, the cargo designed transportation capacity is only utilized by 50%. So we are studying how can we bring out the full potential of the existing designed cargo transportation capacity in airport. And we should also build new cargo airports. We are collaborating with local governments and industry associations to promote such planning in China. If we want to build an airport, we have to get approval from the State Council for the structure design, and then select the siting, and the air territory requirements must be met. Airliners and logistic companies must be resident companies as the major players. And we should also consider the land resources to support the well-functioning of the airport. We want to foster the development of cargo-dedicated airports. In response to emergencies, civil aviation and general aviation should supplement each other and realize synergy development, because in public transportation, short-distance transportation, and city emergency response, medical assistance, general aviation has unique advantages. So we want to have a synergy in the general and civil aviation development to make up for the weaknesses in civil aviation. Finally, all modes of transportation should collaborate for better development. Once the cargo is transported to an airport, it has to go on to the cities and to the folks. So we Apart from the development of an airport, we need to connect it with a highway, railway, waterway, so as to realize the efficiency that when passengers arrive at airports, they can go back home conveniently, and when cargo reach airports, they can go to the hands of the general public more efficiently. With the pressing ahead of our consideration for the 14th five-year plan, we will deepen our thinking and integrate some of our findings and thinkings into the next five-year plan period. I'd like to thank the guest speakers for taking questions. Now I'd like to invite Director Wang Quan to give us some health knowledge. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to share with you some of our ideas on the prevention of accidental injury on children and adolescents. With the epidemic prevention control coming better, many parents are going back to their workplaces, but children are staying home. So how can guardians ensure that there is less accidental injury to children and adolescents? First, electricity issues. Parents should tell children, do not touch electric items, including wires, sockets. Do not touch the electronic product sockets or the strips with a wet hand. Turn off the power after the usage. Parents should regularly check the safety of wires and electronic items. The power outlets, power strips should be covered by some safety covers. The power outlets and power strips should be placed in places where children are difficult to touch. Do not tell the children do not plug metals or hands into sockets. In an outdoor environment, children should stay outside, out of the sight of the guardians, and stay away from electricity provision facilities, including the wires, switch boxes, and utility poles. Parents should teach children to read safety signs so that they can stay away from the hazardous zones. Families and parents should buy qualified electronic appliances and follow the instructions. For senior and older children, parents can teach children to safely and correctly use the household electrical appliances so as to avoid the electricity-related safety issues. Second, some words on falls. Falls are the most commonly seen injury among children. The most severe is falling from a building. But what I want to remind you is that falling from a low place doesn't necessarily promise mild injury. Therefore, do not put 3-month and older babies alone on sofas, chairs, tables, or the bassinets without guardrails. If babies are staying in the bassinet, then these beds must be equipped with guardrails. Apart from changing diapers or feeding the children, as long as the children are in beds, the guardrails must be in place. And also, the guardrails must be high enough so that babies do not climb the guardrails and fall over the guardrails. The chest of drawers, if possible, better be fixated to the walls and lock the drawers. Do not let children stay alone in the balconies or on the fire escapes. Better lock the windows and doors leading to these places. Do not lock the children alone in homes. Do not think that with locked doors and windows, staying home alone will be safe for children. And do not pile items where children can climb under the windows or in balconies. Tell the children do not lean out of the windows or the banisters of a balcony. If conditions allow, install some banisters in places where on the windows and doors that are higher than the ground, and put up some big enough signs on the large-scale glasses so that children can identify those glasses.
Also, for playgrounds or other entertainment facilities outdoors or public facilities, there should be safety measures. Also, the young couples in particular wish to express their affection for their kids by the lift and the throw. I'd like to suggest to refrain from such activities or behaviors, in particular for the young babies, because even if the lift throw does not directly lead to the fall injury, this may cause the intracranial hemorrhage. And once, in case there is a fall injury, do not pick the baby up and shake the head of the baby, as this may worsen the injury. And thirdly, I'd like to talk about drowning. As the weather is getting warmer, both at home and go outdoors, kids have more chances to play with water. I'd like to remind the parents that drowning is silent and can happen very quickly. So long as there's water, there's a risk of drowning. So you have to be alerted against such potential risk. And also, you need to tell the kids that do not overestimate the swimming skill. Avoid water bodies with unknown and unsafe conditions. And also, always keep yourself within the safe water, which is guarded by the lifeguards. And do not go into the water by yourself. And don't play fight in the swimming pool. And if you find anyone drowning, you should call for help rather than go to rescue the victim. Also, if the kid is hungry right after dinner, too sleepy, too tired, or too sick, don't go to swim. And also, the life vests should be put on when the kids take the ship or the canoeing. Also, children at appropriate age can go to learn the standardized swimming skill. Also, there's safety risks at home, so please dump the water in the basins, buckets, and the bathtubs, and the water vats and the wells in rural areas should be well covered. Thank you, Dr. Wang. Thank you for giving us these health tips against the potential injury and the risks on kids. Now, with the international pandemic, people are more interested and concerned about the potential of overseas importation. So tomorrow, this will be our topic for the press conference, and we will have with us the GAC, the CACC, and the Ministry of Transportation, as well as the National Administration of Immigration Management. We welcome your presence and your questions. That's all for today's press conference. Thank you.